At 10 a.m. Pacific on Thursday, August 10th, Obsidian Flames will go live on Pokémon TCG Live, bringing dozens of new game-breaking bugs. I mean, bringing nearly 200 new cards to the game. While it's a fairly disappointing set overall, since there's numerous cards from the starter decks in Japan that were designed to teach new players the game, there's still a few cards worth paying attention to. To complete your collection faster, the Battle Pass free decks will be Charizard EX and Toedscruel EX. The default versions of each deck will include 2 copies of Charizard and Toedscruel, and you'll be able to unlock a 3rd copy of each by getting to tier 15 or so of the Battle Pass. Starting with Charizard EX, it's a Stage 2 Dark type with 330 hit points, and it attacks for 2 fire energy, dealing 180 base damage plus 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. So depending how late in the game it is, Charizard EX could be dealing anywhere from 180 to 330 damage for just 2 energy. While you could use Magma Basin to accelerate energy to Charmander or Charmeleon before evolving, Charizard EX's ability takes care of all your energy needs. When you evolve into it, you can search your deck for up to 3 fire energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. So not only can you power up Charizard right away, but you can squirrel away more energy for potential Armor Rouge shenanigans with Cheryl. Basically, Charizard EX is good, and you don't really have to worry about spending any credits on it. Same with Toedscruel EX. Similar to Espeon VMAX, except for the sucking part, Toedscruel EX's ability prevents all effective attacks done to your Pokemon with energy attached. The main Pokemon you'll be stopping with this is Sableye. Damage counters are considered an effect, so if they try to use Lost Mine, all of your Pokemon with energy on them are immune to it. And the attack isn't that bad either. Using Cherrim to accelerate Grass energy, you'll have to preemptively attach to Toedscruel since Cherrim can't accelerate to Toedscruel. You can get energy on all of your Pokemon fairly easily. By doing so, Toedscruel can hit anywhere from 80 to 280 damage. Now let's switch over to the cards that you will be spending credits on. As a quick reminder, here's what new cards cost to craft in PTCGL. To kick things off, here's the S tier must-haves from Obsidian Flames. Okay, how about the A tier must-haves from Obsidian Flames? Yeah, unfortunately, Obsidian Flames is terrible. Despite giving us more than 190 new cards, there's not much outside of Charizard EX and Toedscruel EX. For example, the trainers are all huge letdowns and there isn't even any new special energy. It appears as though the stadiums will be the most playable trainer cards, but even that feels like a bigger stretch than Hitmonlee's Kick. Town Store allows either player to search their deck for a tool card and put it into their hand. You can get something like Bravery Charm or Defiance Band or for a Seal Stone, but you have to decide if it's actually really worth it. Is Town Store better than something like Artisan, which puts a basic non-rulebox Pokemon onto your bench? Or is it better than Path to the Peak, which can disrupt your opponent? I'd say no, but if you want to craft it, you'll need 100 credits per copy, and you'll probably want to get 2 of them. Pokemon League Headquarters, meanwhile, increases the attack cost of each basic Pokemon by 1 colorless energy. It could be good in certain situations, but your opponent can easily bump it on their turn, and it's not like you're doing much of anything to slow down Chien-Pao or Gardevoir, as, their whole thing is flooding the field with energy. In terms of disruption, Path to the Peak is still likely the much better option, but if Pokemon League HQ sticks, it could be fairly annoying. And what about the supporters? Gita can be semi-useful in decks that always have a useless turn 1, allowing you to accelerate 2 energy from your deck at the cost of not attacking that turn. But you basically have to run Lumineon V to consistently find it, and it means you can't use something like Professor's Research or Irida to dig deeper into your deck on that first turn. So alongside Lumineon, you basically also have to run Squawkabilly EX to ensure that you have a good turn 1. And on top of all that, Gita is a holo rare, so it's 400 credits instead of the typical 100. Poppy is another supporter you really only need 1 copy of, allowing you to move up to 2 of any energy from one of your Pokemon to another. It can move special energy, which is nice, but it's your supporter for turn, so is it really worth it? You should still buy a copy to have it, I just don't think it'll exist in more than a couple of niche decks. And what about Rhyme? It's a draw 3, plus it forces your opponent to switch out their active, sort of like half an escape rope. It could be useful against decks like Ting-Lu and Glamora, but only if they don't have a backup Ting-Lu or Glamora. And wouldn't you rather just use Professor's Research and Escape Rope than Rhyme? Still, get one just to have it. And what about the new item card? Letter of Encouragement allows you to search your deck for any 3 basic energy and put them into your hand. provided one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Chien-Pao's ability already finds energy on its own, but since you're playing Irida in that deck anyways, one copy still seems like a good idea. So yeah, get one copy of the one new item card in Obsidian Flames for 100 credits. Again, this set is super lackluster. To kick off the Pokemon section, we have Glimmora EX. A lot of decks want to have as big of a bench as possible, and Glimmora throws a wrench into that. The ability limits your opponent to 3 bench Pokemon as long as Glimmora is in the active. It's essentially a permanent Avery, and the attack isn't terrible either. For 2 fighting energy, you deal 140 damage and poison. Paired with Radiant Sneasler, the attack essentially does 170 damage. As an added bonus, the Glimmet from Paldea Evolved has the Ascension attack, meaning if you go second, you can have a Glimmora EX up and running on your first turn. Glimmora isn't a must-have by any means, but if you want to annoy people, spend 1800 credits and get 3 copies. Next up is Tyranitar EX. I'm seeing people hype it up, but I personally don't see it. Regardless, for 2 fighting energy, Tyranitar EX can deal 250 damage as a lightning type, provided one of your bench Pokemon has a damage counter on it. You can achieve this with Gengar from Lost Origin or something like Gapejaw Bog. Another good partner will be Dodrio in the 151 set next month, which puts a damage counter on itself while also drawing a card. For energy acceleration, I've seen some Japanese lists running Swampert, but there's also Gutsy Pickaxe if you're feeling lucky, or Koraidon EX if you don't mind ending your turn without attacking. You'll want 3 copies of Tyranitar, totaling 1800 credits. As for new support Pokemon EX, there's Pidgeot EX. The ability is great. Once during your turn, go get any card from your deck. It is limited to once per turn though, no matter how many Pidgeot you have in play, but that means you really only need to own 1 or 2 copies. And even better news, 2 copies are given away for free on the Battle Pass, though it might take a week for you to unlock them. If you don't want to wait, it's 600 credits each. The obvious downsides with Pidgeot are that it's a stage 2 and the attack is lacking, but free retreat is never a bad thing. Pretty much every deck would love to have an ability that gets you any card you want turn after turn, but Arceus V-Star can likely get the most use out of it. That's because you can Starburst turn 2, go get a rare candy in Pidgeot, then use Pidgeot to get any card you're missing, and now for the rest of the game you can use its ability every turn. That's definitely best case scenario, but it doesn't change how powerful it can be. Vespiquen EX appears to have some potential. It has 270 hit points, it's a terrestrial Pokemon, meaning it has a built-in bench barrier, and it deals 200 base damage while also putting 3 damage counters on each of your opponent's bench Pokemon that already have damage counters on them. You can achieve this with Gapejaw Bog, Hawlucha, and Radiant Alakazam. So what about the fact that Vespiquen requires 3 grass energy? Just like Toedscruel EX, you can use Cherrim to accelerate to the pre-evolved form, which doesn't have a rule box. Or if you're a crazy person, you can run a version of the deck with Gardenia. Or if you're a cool person, you can try Forretress EX with Iono. I know I'm grasping at straws here, but that's what Obsidian Flames is. A few cards that might seem good in your head, but after 2 weeks in the OF meta, we won't see more than a couple still in Standard. Switching to single prize Pokemon, Palafin appears to be the best one. For 2 water energy, it deals 210 damage, with the only caveat being that it had to move from the bench to the active spot that turn. Between Switch, Escape Rope, and just using a free retreater like Cyclozar, worth noting that you can't search for Pokemon by retreat cost in Live even though you could in PTCGL, it's fairly simple. And for energy, you can use a combination of Palkia V-Star, Experience Share, or Raihan. As an added bonus, the 50 hit point Finizen has the Ascension attack, which evolves it into Palafin, while simultaneously putting it safely onto your bench. If Palafin still feels underwhelming to you, that's probably because it is. Remember, Obsidian Flames is not a great set. There's a lot of fringe cards to mess around with, but in terms of meta-shifting cards, well, don't get your hopes up. You should also get yourself at least 1 copy of Scizor. Yes, it's basically just Flapple from Evolving Skies, but it has 60 more hit points, which comes at the cost of requiring a Metal Energy instead of Colorless. It's a perfect fit for Zoroark though, as it hits Chien-Pao for weakness. It's a rare, so set aside 400 credits for it. Then we come to Lunatone. This one has a very interesting ability. As long as you have a Soul Rock in play, you prevent all effects of stadiums done to your Pokemon. The new Soul Rock has a Call for Family attack, while the other one has the Energy Accelerating to Lunatone ability, so there's a couple of decent options. But the ability, let's say you put Path to the Peak in play. If Lunatone and Soul Rock are down, guess what? You can still use your abilities. I've seen a bit of talk about a Shadow Rider Path to the Peak deck, which seems weird to say, But it is a thing and helps me keep this video from being too short because oh my god does Obsidian Flames suck. Like, I'm about to talk about Toxtricity. If you have a full bench of Pokemon of 5 different types, it can deal 200 damage for 2 energy. You'll probably want to use something like Magma Basin and Armor Rouge to power up Toxtricity, as Toxel will be your lightning type on the bench, so Flaffy doesn't really fit here. But it just feels like a lot of work to maybe do 200 damage. In conclusion, Obsidian Flames is a terrible set. The good news is that 151 coming on September 21st is a better set. That will probably cause a myriad of issues on TCG Live when it comes out. But in the meantime, you'll want to spend about 10,000 credits to get all of the good cards in Obsidian Flames. In all honesty though, you could just spend 1,000 credits on the new trainers and take advantage of the free cards on the Battle Pass and be totally fine. Charizard EX is the best card in the set. Pidgeot EX is a great support Pokemon if you don't mind its stage 2-ness. And Toedscruel EX can be both a support Pokemon and attacker. Just remember that Pidgeot EX will be unlocked later in the Battle Pass, so you may want to craft it on its own for 600 credits. Basically though, you can choose to take a month off of PTCGL and not miss too much, while simultaneously watching from the sidelines as the game implodes in on itself and the remaining players constantly F5 the website for Twin Leaf, hoping that a release is sooner rather than later so we can play Pokemon cards online without hating ourselves.